That's funny. The person that put the same comment said, "Let's go," right at the same time. And we said literally exactly that right before we pushed the button. Welcome, everybody, to the Flame anniversary stream, which will be very spontaneous and unplanned, but we'll have a lot of fun, I think.
Like all of our streams.
Yeah, exactly, like all of our streams. Yeah, so we can. Should we wait? Maybe can we see somewhere how many people that have joined? If we should wait a few
I mean, you
seconds.
can see it on the YouTube stream itself.
That's true. It says 5 up here in the corner.
Whoa! Why are the 5 people watching us?
We're famous.
Like and subscribe.
I guess we can get started and people can just go back if they want to see what we're talking about earlier. So today is Flame's anniversary, and so it was 5 years ago since Flame was created today on October the 22nd. Or I guess it is a little bit different which day the birthday actually is on. In my time zone, it is the 22nd, but I think it was actually 21st in Brazil when it was created.
Yeah.
But yeah, we go European time. So we have prepared a few slides 10 minutes ago, so let's go through them.
Again, such good preparation.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and for those of you who don't know us, I'm Lucas, or Spidon, as you can see on that's my nick on Discord and GitHub and Twitter, whatever. And with me, I have Jochum, and you can present yourself, I guess.
Yeah, well, my name is Jochem, also one of the maintainers of the Flame engine, also known as Wolven. And me and Lucas, yeah, we got stuck in the Flame. Now we're here forever.
We did indeed, and you will know a little bit more about that later in the slides. Yeah, so as I said, 5 years ago, Flame was created, and it was created on this day 5 years ago, and that is when the first commit was. So I guess that Luan actually started a bit earlier because he did a release on the same day as that commit was made, and then version 0.1.0 was released. Yeah, if you go back and try to use that release, there's not much in there. There's like a basic component maybe and a widget.
I mean, you probably also have to downgrade like the Flutter version and stuff.
Oh yeah, you will have a lot of pain to try to run anything on there, I think. Then the first other person to start contributing to Flame was a friend of Luan that is called Fernando or Ferult on GitHub. And he was contributing quite a lot in the beginning of Flame. And then you can see Eric's first contribution. Eric is also a member of the Blue Fire team now. And his first contribution was the first Flame logo, which is to the right here, which we later changed. And a lot of people thought that this Flame logo looked like a fuck you finger.
Yeah, it was not. It was an awesome logo, but once people pointed that out, we started to like, ooh, might not be good.
Yeah, and then later, why does it say? Oh yes, so the logo was actually Eric made the logo, but he didn't make the commit for the logo. So he started committing things at a few months later at July 10th. And then our awesome artwork maker and focus master Henan joined. And so he has made these slides and stuff like that too. He always creates really good looking stuff.
He's the creative one of us.
Yeah, so he joined after, that's about a year after it first started. And then there was like, I have skipped a lot of things here because there's so much happening. So later in the spring of 2019, I made my first commit. when I was out traveling. And then half a year later or so, Joachim joined with his first commits too. It's been a lot of fun going through the like Git history from like in reverse and see everything that happened back in those days and things that we have just scrapped and things that have changed a lot. Because I don't think there are many code lines that are the same as back then. And then, so here you can see, like, then we were still back at the 0 point versions. So we had like lots of versions with like 0 point. Yeah, here was just an example version. Like 0.18.3 was when we first added keyboard support. So in the first few years there was no keyboard support, but in 2020 we added that, and a few months later we added mouse support too. And also before that, Flutter was mainly focused on mobile, I think. So it was not much.
I think desktop support came around, like it was in beta for like Windows and Mac around that time.
Yeah, exactly. And then we started the long journey of releasing version 1, which we thought would be really quick. Like, we'll just make a release candidate, and then like in a month or so we'll release it. So in October 14th, 2020, we released the first release candidate of version 1 of Flame. And then in 2021, so you can see here, we still haven't released version 1. Then Pasha joined, which is, I think, the 4th biggest contributor now. He's been contributing lots and lots with awesome code. And then in November, so like more than a year after we released the first release candidate, we released our 18th release candidate of version 1. And you can also see here, I have taken the actual tags that we were using. So you can see here in the beginning, we used RC1. But then when we got to RC10, we started getting a problem because Pub naturally sorts the releases alphabetically. So RC10 is actually less in alphabetical order than RC9. So we're like, why doesn't our newest release pop up? So now we have to create a new name.
It was quite an oversight on our part, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. But also we wouldn't have expected to have more than 10 release candidates. Yeah, so on November 25th, we released 18th release candidate. And after that, finally on December the 8th, we released version 1. And was that the release that coincided with that Flutter release where they mentioned us? Or was that later?
Yeah, that was around that time as well. Yeah, because that's also when Hannon did the talk at the Flutter video thing.
Right.
So,
yeah, that was somewhere on there. And
that was technically also a big milestone for us. Like,
oh, for sure, we got a lot of attention from that. A lot of people thought that Flutter has included a game engine in its core now. There was these like tech blogs that had written something from the release notes from Flutter, and then just completely misunderstood what it was about, and then it was very.
I mean, I'm glad they misunderstood. It just gave even more attention to us.
Yeah, exactly. We just had to explain a few minor things to people, like, we're not really in the core of Flutter.
We wish.
Yeah, we wish. And then I'm trying to click on the actual video instead of the slides. It's hard to get to the next thing. After that, we quite a big thing that we did was we converted everything to a monorepository. So before we had lots and lots of small repositories with all of the bridge packages and stuff in, and that made it quite hard for us to like make sure that nothing broke when we updated like the Flame core. So then we converted everything to monorepo, and that has the same structure today with all the packages in there, and it's made it a lot easier to handle. I was quite skeptical to monorepos before that, but after it I was like, shit, this worked so well for us.
I mean, we barely ever have accidental breaking changes between like the bridge packages or whatever. because of the mono
exactly.
repo.
Yeah, because it was such a mess before. And then this year, a few months ago, it was Flutter Vikings. Oh yeah, you even have the T-shirt on. And that was the first time I actually met anyone in the in the Flame team after several years, and I talked to these people every day pretty much. So then it was me, Jochum, and Hennan. We met on Flutter Vikings, and that was a lot of fun.
In that sense, Flutter Viking was almost like a Flame meetup.
Yeah, exactly.
Sadly, Eric and
for us
Luan
it
weren't
was.
there, but
Yeah, next time. And since Flame and since Flame, Luan and Hennan and Eric, they have already met each other before, so
we were the ones out
haven't
of the
met.
loop.
Exactly. And now, in the beginning of this month, we released version 1.4 with lots of juicy changes. And after that release, we have had an insane amount of contributors because of Hacktoberfest. So that's been a lot of fun. And actually, surprisingly little spam and stuff. It's been the contributors have been really good this year.
I mean, the whole Flutter community has been quite spamless for Hacktober, so
yeah, very nice.
I think that just states how well the Flutter community in general is, probably.
Yeah, and also I think Hacktoberfest have been better with like announcing this thing that if you get 2 things marked as spammy, then you will be disqualified from Hacktoberfest. People are kind of discouraged from putting up very bad PRs. What do we have next? Let's see. Yeah, so our Stargazer history here. You can we're up on above 7,000 stars now, which is quite nice. Which is also weirdly almost as many stars as the Dart SDK has. So if you have Start Flame, I think you should also go in and start the Dart SDK. They deserve more stars.
I mean, everything is built on top of at least the Dart SDK, so it's a bit...
exactly.
Where are your priorities?
Yeah, I think it's like easier, I guess, to like the house than to like the plumbing of a house or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you like yeah, that makes sense. You like the furniture, but you don't really know how it's built.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so go in and star the Dart repository if you haven't, and I'll also star us, of course.
If you haven't.
And here's some quick Flame facts. We have 2,672 commits in our repository, and it's actually a lot more commits if we wouldn't have squashed. So we're having a strategy of squashing all the PRs, so all of them get squashed down to 1 commit before they're merged in. And now Jochum dropped off. He said he might get some problems with his internet connection, so we'll see if he comes back. Yes, there he is. I'm just going to pull him into the stream again. Welcome back. Can you hear us? Oh, well, he can sort that out. We have almost 140 contributors. We'll definitely have over 140, probably 150 before Hacktoberfest is over, as many contributors that are joining us now. And they have this fun thing now on GitHub too, so that you can see how many projects that or public projects that depend on your project. And we have 4,500 public projects that are depending on Flame in GitHub. So that's pretty cool. So then are obviously a lot more private ones too. And if you haven't joined our Discord, really join our Discord. It's a lot of fun in there, and you get help when you need it, and you can help other people, and you can get ideas, and just and go into the random channel and just talk about whatever. And did I say that we have 4,300 users in there? I don't know. I think we had the 400 people online earlier when I checked. And for the people that don't know, we have our lovely little mascot called Ember, which I think Eric made several years ago. So if you have been into our example pages, you've probably seen Ember. And now we have started making our docs interactive. So you can actually, like, inside of our docs, it is playing small Flame games that you can interact with and then see the code on. And there you will be able to see Ember too. And this interactive doc thing is something that a lot of people from the Hacktoberfest have contributed to. So that's very nice. And here you can see how Flame has grown. So this is like commits per month or per week for the Flame repository for the last 5 years. So you can see that here it's in the beginning here of 2018, it was quite a lot of activity, but at that time it also the commits weren't squashed, so it looks like more more commits than it was, or it was that many commits, but it was like it was a lot more activity around here since the commits were squashed. And here you can see the little peak for Hacktoberfest too, which is very nice. And then we have some of our like top contributors. So I have the most commits, and then we have Eric on the second place, and then Luan, and then Pasha. And then you can also look at like how many lines we've added and stuff too, because you can do a lot of small commits, or you can do like a lot bigger ones. So I guess like since I have like 747 commits, but only 92,000 lines added. And then if you compare it to Pasha, for example, which have 186 commits, but he has 54,000 lines added on those commits. So that's quite interesting to see how people work differently. I guess he takes on bigger tasks, and I fix a lot of smaller things that needs fixing. And then we have Wolfen and then Fernando that I was talking about earlier, which haven't been that active lately, or not active at all, but he's still following the project, I think. And then Henan, and then this is DevCage, but if you haven't seen his videos, he has excellent tutorials for Flame on YouTube. And then we have some other people too. And yeah, it like this doesn't really say that much for what you do for Flame, because there's so much other things that you fix, that people fix and stuff too. Right, and that was all for the slides. But I was thinking that since we haven't had any FlameCon lately, we can go through the changelog of Flame and see what has been added lately, so that you don't have to do that yourself, and I can probably add some more context to things too, hopefully. Just gonna get that up here. There is the changelog, and I have to change. Oh, now Wolfen is back. Hello. I'm just gonna swap my screen here and go back to the changelog. Is it the audio, or is it the internet that is bad?
No, my USB hub just decided to not stop working.
Oh, that's
and bad. Everything is routed through that hub.
So then everything breaks down. Okay,
yeah.
Let's make this a little bit bigger. What? Can I not? I never use Chrome, but apparently Chrome works better for StreamYard. So I like that maybe. Yes, we can have a little check here on 1.4.0, which was the latest release, and then later we can look at unreleased things too. So let's see here. Tell me if you see anything that you think is interesting, Joachim.
I mean, there are plenty of things that are interesting, like the Quad 3 broad voice support. But
that one is awesome. Where does it even say that? Here, yeah.
Yes.
So this is something that maybe a lot of people won't use, but the people that need it is extremely useful for them, because it makes the collision detection a lot more efficient. The only downside is that you have to define a box for your world, or like a rectangle where all of your components should be within. So if you have the size of your world, then you can use the quad tree, and the collision detection will be a lot faster. And it's very simple for you as a user to add this, but it has been a lot of work put in by. Do you remember his name?
No. I mean, it's probably on the issues right somewhere.
Probably says it here. Oh yes, Alex. Yeah, very very appreciated work from him. So
I mean, it's also really like you should not use this if you have a really small world with not a lot of like components running around, because then it's also not efficient enough. But if you have like a really big world with a lot of components in different places and that kind of stuff, like the quad tree, broad face support is really amazing for collision.
Yeah. So for the ones that want to know the nitty gritty details of the collision detection system, so quad tree, so a broad face is like the system running first in a collision detection system, and it just takes away everything that possibly couldn't collide, and then it keeps the rest and just do checks against those ones. Because otherwise, if you say you have 10 components and all of them have to test against each other, then it's 10 times 9 collision tests. But if you only have 2 components over here and 2 over here and 2 over here, then you might only have to do like 3 different collision tests. And that, since it is it will be a lot of collisions that it has to test if you just say that, test all the hitboxes against each other. So that's what the broad face is used for. And there is a default broad face too, which is called sweep and prune, if you want to have a little bit more look into that.
It's also all documented on the documentation website, obviously.
Exactly. It is indeed. We added the possibility for solid hitboxes. So before, hitboxes, all hitboxes were hollow by default, or they're still hollow by default, but you can now have like a hitbox within another hitbox, and it would be regarded as a collision. Before, that was not the case.
Awesome. I didn't even know of that one.
Yeah, it was actually quite a small fix, but a lot of people wanted that, so I added that. There was some callbacks added for the effect controller, which means that when you're running an effect, so say that you're running it in Infinity, then you can have callbacks for when the effect peaks. So say that you want your player to go back and forth like that. Then when the effect peaks, then you can run a callback when it gets here, and then when it is back to, or I think the callbacks are called at min and at max, and at min will be when it's back at the beginning again, if you're doing alternation too.
Another interesting one is the support for the isometric staggered maps, but like in general, all the stuff that has been happening on tiles.
Oh yes, indeed. So there was a lot of there were free people that just did massive amounts of work on on tiled and isometric things during the last few months. So
and they're optimizing it as well, like
massively. Yeah, a lot of nice stuff coming in there. A clip component, so that you can add children to it, and it will like clip around them with a path. So if you want to like remove stuff from what should be rendered. I was looking at something else. Oh yes, this one is a good one. So you can just call, if you want your little player to look at your enemy, for example, you can just do look at and then the enemy. And for this one to work properly, there is also something called native angle added to position component. So imagine that your sprite is like looking to the right from the beginning. Then you want to have the native angle as pi divided by 4, or 90 degrees, because otherwise it doesn't know which angle is the angle that the sprite is looking at. So maybe you could have a spaceship that is pointed upwards, then you would have that as 0, or you could have something pointed to the side or downwards or whatever. So if you want to use look at, you should also look up how to use the native angle field, and all that is in the docs, of course. Yeah, this one is quite interesting too. So if you're having problems with, so Flutter has a rendering problem when it comes to overlapping things that are rendering. So then it can render lines that are artifacts of it's basically rounding errors, but that will show as lines on the screen. But these rounding errors won't happen if all numbers are if no numbers are doubles. So then that viewport can help with that. And this issue is fixed, or the issue is kind of intentional, but the issue is fixed in Impeller. But it will probably
Technically
be quite
speaking, in Sky, they can already fix it.
Yeah.
They just have to pass a different argument, like down the rendering pipeline somewhere. But they are afraid that it would also, like, it would fix this problem, but it would probably also make certain widgets and that kind of stuff render different, because all of a sudden they could technically visually be different. So they are not doing that on purpose.
And I think it would also be a little bit heavier performance.
Yeah, it is heavier to calculate the basically the overlap. It's now doing like a sort of nearest neighbor kind of algorithm to determine what the overlapping color should be.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, otherwise it would have to do it per pixel, which is really expensive. They probably wouldn't even notice like that kind of performance in normal Flutter apps, but still.
Yeah, exactly. It's just for us that are being crazy, rendering 60 times per second with directly on the canvas. What do we have more here? You can ignore hitboxes for A-casting. So if you want to shoot out a ray from your component or wherever in your game world, then maybe you want to ignore some hitboxes, but maybe you only want to hit walls or something, for example. So then that one is quite useful. And that was also something from an external contributor. That was nice. I think it was
that one done by DevCage.
Yeah, I think so. Do we have anything more that is interesting?
I mean, we have a breaking fix, which is always interesting.
yeah, that was something that we had forgot to do. So all the component set is like the basis of the Flutter or the Flame component system, or FCS as we call it, and all of the modifications to the component set should be done by the component internally, but accidentally we had made some of those functions public, but now they're not public anymore, but they have corresponding methods in the component that you can use instead. Let's have a look at 1.3.0 too. So here, some updates for the new Dart version, which made it cleaned up a lot of the code, which is nice.
Oh, yes.
Game is now a class, not a mixin. Was that 1.3.0? It feels like ages ago when we made that.
I mean, I think it took a while for 1.3.0 to get released. Like, there was one of the first fixes that we did. Or refactor is not really a fix, but
that's true. That's why it's in the topper.
I mean, originally the game was also a class, then we turned it into a mixin, and now it's back to being a class, right?
yeah.
That's basically how that went.
Yeah, it is indeed. Back and forth, but it was the architecture was nicer with having it as a class.
Yeah.
What do we have now? Yeah, if anyone is using the the camera component, which is kind of it has more features, and I wouldn't say more stable, but it works really well as the camera component, and this will replace the camera that is bundled into the Flame game class in a future major version of Flame. So if you're using the camera component, then you know that you have a world component, and the world component can now be queried with components at point. So then you can just say a point in your world, and then you get back all the components that are at that point, which is quite a nice feature. And yes, some cleanup with the input detectors, and fixes, and what do we have more? Yeah, a lot of fixes here. I guess fixes aren't really that interesting.
I mean, they should fix something without breaking, so people don't know.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not a fix like like that one,
Like
the
breaking fix.
I mean, breaking sure is also quite.
that yeah, fair. But that one was breaking mostly because we just removed all the.
Yeah, remove everything that had been marked as deprecated. Oh yeah, we moved to Flutter 3 and Dart 2.17 in there too. And yeah, if you haven't checked out the decorators, you can check them out in the docs. They have some cool interactive examples in there. You can do a lot of cool things with that.
The has ancestor mixin is also an interesting one.
Oh yes,
which I believe was basically based on the has parent.
Yeah,
mixin that I created.
It was indeed.
So this allows you to basically enforce that a component somewhere in your tree upwards, like a child component, has a certain guaranteed ancestor type as one of its parents, as its nested parents, so like an ancestor.
Yeah.
Which allows you to have a quick lookup as well. It will expose like an ancestor property as well, so you can just do my component.ancestor, and that will then be guaranteed to be that type when it is mounted, and it can't be mounted if it's not available.
Yeah, it's very useful if you have nested component trees. Yeah, and there was some more things added for the router component. That one is quite cool too, that you can decide to go to different screens and stuff from within Flame. The fourth part of the Klondike, do you say that? Klondike? I don't know. So that's a card game tutorial that we have. It's not done yet, but the tutorial is really nice itself. And I can we have a new tutorial coming up, which is a platformer tutorial, which our dear contributor Munsterlander has just put up. So nobody has reviewed it yet, but it looks very promising. So that would be cool.
It's kind of funny that we now have probably more tutorials on the engine, on the repo, created by contributors than ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, technically, it was one of our goals for version 1 release to have more tutorials. Like, it should have been part of the release, and we just never got to it.
Yeah, we started.
So I'm really happy that the community is doing it for us.
Yeah, indeed. It's the same thing like the quad tree. I was preparing everything for the quad tree thing, but then I was like, I don't have time to do this now. But I made the structure so it would be easy to put in a new broad face, and then this Alex person comes in and just like, oh, bam, 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 here's the quad tree. And you're like, ooh, nice.
Okay,
saved me like two weeks of work, or saved the community 2 weeks of work and providing something back. Very nice.
I mean, it probably took him still 2 weeks of work, but still.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, that I didn't have to do the work. Yeah, and in 1.3.0, one of the big things was raycasting and ray tracing too. And if you want to see a video of raycasting and ray tracing, there is some on my Twitter.
Shameless plug.
Exactly. We should have that in the docs too. I don't think there is.
No, I don't. Don't we have an interactive example for it now?
There is, yeah, in examples.flameengine.org you can also see it. That's true, but not in the docs.
We should add one in the docs then.
Yes, we should indeed. Let's have a look at what has been committed lately. Oh yeah, we got the spell checker in today, and it is complaining at 2,000 things, which maybe a fourth of them are actual typos, and the other things are just words that the spell checker doesn't have in the dictionary. So if you're a native English speaker or is very proficient in English, there is also an issue up where you can take an Hacktoberfest issue that you can take on and fix those ones. Yeah, what do we have here that could be interesting? Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of new documentation for with interactive docs, which is nice, and a lot of new documentation for the bridge packages, which were lacking, and a lot new tests too. So that's nice. And we have Pasha have started on a new bridge package called Flame Yarn, and this is not the yarn thing from like Node.js or I don't know, it's somewhere in the JavaScript ecosystem. I try to stay out of that ecosystem. So yarn here is for something called Yarn Spinner, and that is a conversational conversational editor or something, so that you can have you can write like your dialogue in a text format and then just import it into your game and have like options of what your character should say and what would happen when the character says something. And it's very cool. So Google Yarn Spinner to get the look of it.
Yeah, it's a really nice narrative and dialogue system that you can then just write in their system, and then you can just use it in any game engine that supports it. And we don't support it yet, so
yeah,
it's a really nice system.
Soon we will. I think it looks like he has made great progress in there. Like the parser is all done, and yeah, it just needs some components and stuff. Yeah, this was a small one, but quite nice one, so that you can add children in the if you're using the camera component again. So the world class, that one can now take children directly in the constructor. Just like we changed a few months ago, that you can add a list of children as in the constructor of any component. Yeah, so this one has a bit of a confusing title. Removed future plus is removed field from component. So it actually adds a removed future. It doesn't remove a future. And this means that instead of having to override on remove in a component, then you can just hook into the removed future and do like removed punkt. Punkt, that's dot in Swedish for anyone that didn't know.
I mean, it also sounds like punt, which is Dutch for dot.
Oh yeah, of course. So with that one, you can go in and do like removed dot then, and then whatever you want to do when the component is removed.
Or just await it.
Yeah, or await it.
Especially in tests. Like if you're writing a test for a component and some other component should remove your component, you can then await it and then do an expect and that kind of stuff to validate like that it got removed and that kind of stuff. So it's a really nice feature to have. Can't wait for it to be released. And
there is also a corresponding feature called mounted, which is already released. Oh, I actually told. Oh yeah, this is not released yet. Yeah.
No, this is not released yet.
That's true. There was somebody using that directly from the main channel in Discord today, so I thought it was very useful.
So many docs changes.
Docs. Yeah, so this was a great fix to the SVG component. It is a lot nicer now when you render the SVG component. It looks much more sharp. So that's nice. And docs. And yeah, tests and docs and tests and docs.
Tests and docs and tests and docs.
And if you're using FlameRive and have used... Oh no. Yeah, this does some fix on FlameRive, but this person has also done more fixes later on FlameRive, but maybe they're not merged yet.
Yeah, you missed one with the anti-alias that got merged a few days ago. The anti-aliasing. That's also done by the same person. And they also added tests.
Yeah. Tests and docs. And
breaking fix.
Breaking fix, but it was also something that nobody would have like used, but it was theoretically breaking fix, but it shouldn't have affected anyone. And more tests and docs, and
That's
some
pretty much the
fixes
theme of the Hacktober for us,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tests and docs.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for newcomers to come in and do bigger changes in Flame.
Because
So
the small features that people might want to have they either get implemented by us or by the community anyway.
exactly,
Yeah.
they're already fixed fast. Yeah, and more like I said earlier, like all the tiled fixes and stuff that have come in, so awesome. I wonder why this one misses a conventional commit tag here.
Yeah, we should check that out, otherwise it might get missed.
Yeah, it's, I mean,
That might,
merge,
based
but
on how it's merged, it might not have a proper title.
Yeah, probably.
Don't we have a semantic workflow?
Yes, we do, but it only checks it. It doesn't check it on merge. It only checks it because it takes the title from the PR and then puts it in to the that. Oh yeah,
but then it shouldn't have been merged.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably I probably did something bad when I merged this, I'm guessing. On children change, this quite a nice thing that you can override now, and then you can do things. Yeah, whenever there is added or removed children to.
That was also just like a few lines of code changed, right? To add that feature, like
exactly.
Love to see those small pull requests with these kinds of massive.
They're so useful. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's probably not much more here. Yeah, because here we had the release on October the 1st, I think. Oh yeah, we have mermaid diagrams in the docs now. That's really nice. So mermaid diagrams that are defined by code. Before we were using this draw IO diagrams, and it was really hard to make changes to them because basically only I could make changes to them because I only had access to the files.
And now anyone can do it because it's in source control.
Exactly, and it's directly in the repository. Yeah, I think that's it for that one. I think, yeah, should we maybe see if we have any just questions from the audience?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let me go back to the nice slide that we had. So if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot them in the comments and we will answer them as good as we can. It can be questions like problems you're having in your game, or I don't know, any questions.
Except asking when we will support 3D. Because we still don't have an answer for that.
That question you should ask to the Flutter team. Exactly. A lot. You should ask it every day.
I'm kind of curious, like how many people are now.
It says 12 up here in the corner.
12? Why? Why are 12 people watching us?
Yeah, you can wonder. We have Script X and Kevin and Juan and Mikael or Michael, maybe Pierre and Jose. But I guess we have no questions. So
I mean, otherwise people can always ask on Discord.
Yeah, like, exactly. So if you're not, yeah, exactly. If you're not on our Discord, can I get that Discord link maybe?
You should be able to. You're the host.
Let me post that one in the. Let's see. And at some point we'll get a new site, and then you can actually right-click the link here because now it opens Discord directly when I click it. There we go. Now I got it. All right, there is our Discord link. If you're too shy to ask in the stream, ask us any questions on Discord and we will answer as much as we can. Okay.
Probably Lucas will.
And there's someone coming for the cake, but everyone knows the cake is a lie.
Yes, we don't have a cake. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a good one and see you on Discord.
Bye-bye.
And thanks for watching.